Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel, and if you're new here, welcome. We are so happy to have you here today. Today I'm going to show you guys how to winterize your rabbit's hutch, because although a lot of people are able to keep their rabbits indoors, there are still some rabbit owners who simply cannot because maybe their parents won't let them, or for whatever reason they just can't bring their rabbits indoors and it's cold outside and they want to make sure the rabbit is nice and warm this winter. So that is why I'm making this video, so that for those of you who have to keep your rabbit outdoors, you can make sure they are still nice and warm and happy. And of course, it is still best to bring your rabbit indoors if you can. However, like I said, there are still a lot of people who are unable to do that. So keep watching to find out how to winterize your rabbit's hutch. So a real quick reminder before we get on the video that most rabbit hutches out there being sold by pet stores and just places on the internet are not suitable for rabbits. The minimum enclosure space is 4 feet by 2 feet. So of course it can be in different dimensions, but it needs to be that same square footage. And stacked levels don't really count. It has to be at least 4 feet by 2 feet on one single level. Okay, now let's get on with the video. First, we're going to talk about inside the hutch. The first thing that will make a huge difference and keep your rabbit warm is adding fleece beds and a fleece cage liner. So a lot of people like to line their hutches with hay or like shaved wood bedding. Shaved wood bedding, wood shavings, are not safe for rabbits, so completely forget that idea. And when you put hay all over your rabbit's hutch, they can actually get it confused with a litter box, and they may not go to the litter box as well as you would like them to because they think the whole hutch is their litter box. So fleece is nice and warm, it's easy to keep clean, and you can do so much with fleece, so I definitely recommend making or buying some fleece beds and a fleece cage liner. The next thing your rabbits will need to stay really warm is tons of hay. As you guys probably know, animals gain a winter coat and some extra winter weight during the winter to keep them nice and warm, and your rabbit's gonna need to do that a little bit. Now, the weight gain shouldn't be huge, it should be a very small amount, but that very small amount can really help keep them warm. And they will need a lot of energy in order to keep their body temperature at a nice warm place. So they're going to need lots of hay. So for this, I like to have a big basket full of hay. Brittany likes to jump in there and eat all the hay and kind of dig around in it if she wants. And then she also has the hay feeder right next to her litter box. It's always good to have hay by your litter box because rabbits love to eat while they poop. So definitely have hay either in the litter box or right next to it. And it's also a good idea to have hay in other areas as well, maybe in toys or in a basket. If you happen to get down to freezing, which is very likely, your water may freeze. And this can be really, really bad because rabbits need access to water 24/7, so if their water freezes, that can be really bad for them because they could go all night without any access to water. So you need to make sure that your rabbit's water does not freeze. The best way to do this that I have found is to put their water dish by the heat lamp, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but that'll keep it nice and warm and hopefully keep it from freezing. You also need to make sure that you're checking it often throughout the day to make sure it doesn't freeze. Now, there also is such a thing as heated water bowls. I've never used one of these, but if you want to look into that, you can definitely go ahead and look into it, see if it's safe. As I said, I've never used one of these, so I don't really know all the details about them. There obviously is a cord that has to plug into somewhere, so you need to be very careful and bunny-proof that. But just be very careful if you're going to use something like that. The next thing you need to do to keep your rabbit warm is keep everything very nice and dry, because you know that if you go out in the cold, if you get wet, it makes you so much more cold. So you need to make sure your rabbit's hutch stays nice and dry. The best way to do this is to clean up immediately if they spill their water or something, And if they have a pee accident somewhere, clean that up right away. And also just make sure you're cleaning the litter box often to make sure they're not getting cold and gross in that. All right, the last thing you can do inside the hutch is insulate part of it. You probably don't want to insulate the whole thing because you're not going to have air circulation. So for me, we just insulated the house, and the way you can do this is you can go buy some foam board. Now, the thing you need to be super careful about this is making sure your bunny doesn't chew it. If you notice your rabbit has interest in chewing it, get rid of it right away. That's really dangerous. But we put it in tight so there are no corners that Brenzel can easily get to. So it does work, and she's not interested in it. It just keeps it nice and warm in there. And yeah, so if you want to do that, that is something you can look into. Okay, now we're going to talk about the outside of the hutch. So the first thing I recommend using is a heat lamp. So heat lamps are often used for baby chicks to keep them nice and warm. But for some reason, I haven't seen many people use heat lamps for rabbits, which I don't know why, because it's like a genius idea. But heat lamps work super great keeping your rabbit warm. So there's just 3 things you need to remember when using a heat lamp. The first is to make sure it's outside of the hutch for 2 reasons: to make sure they can't touch it and possibly burn themselves, and also to make sure they don't chew the cord, because if they chew that cord, that can be really, really dangerous. And then the third is just to make sure that the heat lamp is only facing towards a small part of the hutch, and that there's plenty of area they can get away from it if they're getting too warm, but that there's plenty of area that they can also go by it to stay warm. The next thing I recommend is using a plastic cover on your hutch, or just whatever cover you can find. So we just bought some like plastic. It's kind of like a thick plastic that people would use like to lay on the floor when they're painting something to protect the carpet. Well, we folded this over and cut it to the exact size of the wire in her hutch. And I like to use this if it's raining, or if it's windy or snowing, or just especially cold, to really help keep all that warm air in the hutch. But a very important thing to remember is to leave a good amount of space for air ventilation, because if you get all that hot air trapped in there, it can be really dangerous. So one thing we did is used a bit of wire and made a little cover thing for the heat lamp so that we can put the plastic around the heat lamp without it actually touching the heat lamp, because that could be dangerous and potentially melt the plastic, which you don't want. So that's something you can do if you have a little bit of extra wire, something. We just happen to have the perfect amount, which is really nice. But if you can do something like that, that's really great. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all soon. Bye!